What's going on, guys? Today I'm here to do an instructional video on how I put together my mini GoPro vlogging setups with those 3D printed audio adapter cases that I designed and that you can purchase through Shapeways. I did a video previously showing the details of the setup that I have, and these versions here are complete production style that you would see if you ordered through Shapeways as well. Now there's two case styles available. One uses the mini shotgun mic that mounts to the side of the camera case, and the other one uses a more standard shotgun style mic like a Rode Video Micro, which you see here. Now I personally use the smaller, more compact version that uses the smaller mini directional mic that mounts to the side. It's just smaller, lower profile. It all just kind of helps tuck in nicely, and I find it to be extremely handy to go out and shoot in public with. The second style is more traditional as far as what you would normally be used to possibly seeing, and it uses a microphone that you may already have even. Setting up either of these two camera rigs is very similar, but I'm gonna go step by step and show you exactly how I put them each together. So we've got the parts here to do the first step of the assembly of the audio adapter case onto the aluminum GoPro housings. I've got two setups here, style 1 of the audio adapter case and style 2, as well as 2 of the aluminum housings, 2 of the audio adapters, the hardware needed, and the GoPro mounting foot that comes with the case as well. Really the only part that you'll need to source here are these pieces of hardware. I've got a list below with all of the hardware pieces that you'll need. Starting with the first style of case, take the 3D printed case itself and grab the O-ring from the hardware list. We need to put this in place before we really start attaching any of this to the case. Put the O-ring over the case and then start to fit it down into the groove that's designed in the case. It doesn't need to be smashed into place, it just needs to be kind of put into position, especially on the top side first. Once you have the O-ring into position, now we're going to attach this audio case to the aluminum GoPro housing. To attach it to the housing, we're just going to use the M3 screws that I discussed in the first video on this. The screw we're using is an M3 12mm long flathead screw. To install it, grab a pair of needle nose pliers. Use the needle nose pliers to put it through the case. Once it's into position, you can use your 2mm driver, put it through the hole in the bottom of the case, and line it up with the screw. The screw needs to go in one of the two positions with the holes in the center of the case. Make sure that the O-ring is in the groove that it should be on the case. Then tighten it down onto the GoPro housing. Make sure that the wire routing portion of the case is facing towards the back side of the GoPro case. Once you have it lightly tightened down and making sure that the O-ring can't come out of place, take the second flathead screw and put it into position as well, and then finish tightening down the assembly onto the aluminum GoPro housing. Follow the exact same steps to attach the second version of the audio GoPro adapter case onto that aluminum GoPro housing. Next, we need to attach the aluminum GoPro mounting foot that comes with the case to the bottom of the 3D printed audio housing adapter. To do this, we need to put the M3 lock nuts into the groove that's made into the bottom part of the audio adapter case. This can take just a little bit of patience. If you've got access to a long 3mm screw, this can come in handy. You can again take your needle nose pliers, hold the lock nut, move it into position, and use the longer M3 screw through the bottom of the case to start the threads. Once you have the nut attached to that long screw, you can then use that screw to pull that lock nut into position and kind of hold it in that groove in the bottom of the inside of the case. You can then unscrew the long M3 screw, then grab the aluminum mounting foot and an M3x8 button head screw and place it into that mounting foot. And then before beginning to thread it into place, make sure that that O-ring is in that groove that it needs to be on the bottom. Just slightly rotate that screw until it starts to bite into that lock nut. Once it does, it'll quickly begin to tighten down. We're just gonna kind of leave it loosely attached and kind of move that mounting foot into position again, making sure that that O-ring stays where it's supposed to be. We're again gonna use the long M3 screw to tighten onto that lock nut first and then pull it into place. Now that I pulled it into place, I can loosen it back up and our M3 nut stays where it's supposed to be. Once they both found the lock nuts, you can then tighten both of those screws down. Make sure that everything's snug, but you don't have to over snug them because those M3 lock nuts are just held in place by that 3D printed material. Now we need to follow those same steps we just did to the first style case onto the second style of case. So at this point, we've got both of the aluminum cases mounted up to their respected audio adapter cases with the lower mounting feet on both. At this point, we need to install the audio adapter and start our cable routing on the back side. My preferred version is the style number 1 that uses the small shotgun mic on the side. So that's the one I'm going to start with first. To install the audio adapter, we need to insert it from the right side, which is the more open side of the audio adapter case. Once you have the USB Type-C cable through the one side, now you just need to move that O-ring out of the way and then begin to fish the audio adapter into place past the rest of the O-ring. Those O-rings are flexible, just force them out of the way and then they'll snap back into place. Now I've oriented it with the microphone input towards the front side of the case. For this Type 1 case, it's made to use these very small style mic. This is the ETM-008, which is the directional mic, and this is the ETM-001, which is an omnidirectional. I like to use the directional one just because I think it makes it a little bit cleaner if I'm in a noisy area, things like that. Try to keep the sound focused to where I'm pointing the camera. However, it's quite expensive. It's around 80 bucks. The omnidirectional one, which is a little bit smaller in general, is only about 30 bucks. So if you can get away with an omnidirectional mic, you can save a good chunk of money. Now, these mics both have a male end on them. So you need to make sure that you find a cable with a male end on one side and a female end on the other. At this point, I'm going to take the female end and fish it through the audio adapter case and pull it into position. Just get the spiral into place. The case kind of just gives it a place to hold it into position. At this time, I'm going to take this female end and put it into position, being held onto the case by that O-ring. Before I put the mic in position, you can see that the end of that cable is being held firmly in place by that O-ring. And then we can take and just push that shotgun mic into that cable. The male end of that spiral cable simply plugs into that GoPro audio adapter. At this time, we're ready to install a GoPro now. I like to use the case style that has this slide up back. I like to use it more than I like to use the thumb screw that goes into the side of the case and just puts pressure on the camera. With the side door of the GoPro removed, we can place the GoPro into the case and then reinstall the back door of the aluminum GoPro housing. Now the audio adapter can plug into the GoPro. One bit of advice, this cable here that comes out of the audio adapter is fairly thick and almost a little rigid. Something that I would suggest is kind of getting it into place where you want and just heating it up with either a heat gun or a hair dryer to make it a little bit more pliable and kind of work it into the shape that you want, and it'll stay there with putting less pressure on that USB-C plug on the side of your GoPro housing. And that's all there is to getting the cables installed into this case. As far as holding everything into place, I did add a couple of holes in the 3D printed housing itself where you can add things like zip ties or safety wire to hold things more secure into place if you don't want this moving around. Now, you can use a piece of a plastic coat hanger or anything the proper diameter for whatever spiral you're using. Now, once you've got that piece of plastic in there, you can take and then safety wire or zip tie through those holes. They'll just hold everything perfectly firm into location. Nothing is moving around, but it still has enough flexibility to give when you're kind of tossing this thing around. For my preferred handle right now, I'm using the Joby 1K Gorilla Pod. Now, I also have the GoPro Shorty handle, which also works as an extendable tripod. But if I'm out on the rocks or things like that, and I need something that's a little bit more organic and kind of move around a little bit better, this one works really well. It actually had much longer legs from the factory, but I simply popped off the ends of the legs, shortened them to the desired length that fits just perfectly in my hand, and then put the bottom of the feet back on. Worked out to be just the perfect little micro vlogging tripod for me. To attach my tripod, I did change up the aluminum thumb screws to some longer knurled aluminum ones. Now, I'm using orange because I really like the orange color. One thing that I will suggest is putting the thumb screw on the opposite side of the USB-C cable on the GoPro itself. Just keeps it out of the way. If you're ever loosening it and tightening it to get the camera adjusted for the angle you want, you're not really bumping that cable that we talked about before. Now let's finish setting up the second style of the audio adapter case. Again, just kind of move the O-ring out of the way and push the audio adapter into place. This one goes in easier because you don't have to put it in cable first, since there isn't a stop for that shotgun microphone. Now that it's in place, we need to install our upward pointed spiral. For this one, we're going to use a Rode Video Micro, just because it's a popular microphone. I think a lot of people use this style. I use this style on my DSLR, which I'm filming with now. To install the Rode Video Micro onto the case, we will have to attach the cold shoe adapter that comes with the GoPro aluminum housing first. Get it attached to the case, make sure that it's square, and then you need to tighten down that little set screw on the front side of it. This will just kind of lock it into place. Now that that cold shoe mounts in place, we can attach our Rode Video Micro. When you place the microphone onto the case, make sure that there is room to lift that rear cover up. You can almost move that cover up, put the microphone into place, and then tighten it down. Now, since this style mic uses a female on this end and a female on the case, you will need to find a cable that is a male style cable. For mine, I'm going to use a right angle on the audio adapter side and a straight on the microphone side. I'm going to insert the straight end of the spiral through the audio case first and then pull it through. Then I'm going to plug the 90-degree side into the audio adapter case, and finally the other end into the microphone. Again, in this situation, if you want, you can use a flexible piece of plastic rod down the center of the spiral to keep everything nice and straight and lined up like I have here. And then again, you can use the holes that I placed into the audio adapter case to just either wire tie or safety wire everything so that it doesn't move and it keeps everything out of the way of your screen at all times. One problem with this style of mic is that with this spiral in the back, it does have a tendency to pull down on the shotgun microphone, angling it just a little bit upwards. Not really a big deal, and there's some things that you can do as far as attaching the microphone cable more to the case to help keep the pressure off of that spiral and keep that microphone kind of sitting wherever it wants. The other option though is to go with a cable that uses right angle ends on both sides of the spiral. There is one issue with this though, and that is that it can be difficult to get this 90-degree male side through the audio adapter case, but it is possible. Get it into place and really just give it a pretty good press. Once you get the leading edge of the male portion through the case, it'll start to go through a little bit easier. So once you get that through there and put into the microphone, you can then see that it's pointed more parallel with the direction that the lens is looking. Again, if you put that piece of flexible plastic inside of that spiral, it keeps it perfectly straight out of the way, but again, still movable. At this point now, we can attach this version to its handle as well. Another benefit of using the smaller style mic is that you can use a lavalier style dead cat and it never gets into your field of view. When you're using something like the Rode Video Micro and it's got the full-size dead cat that it comes with on there, even in linear mode, you can still see that dead cat, especially if you're using image stabilization. And as that thing's moving around, it'll start to come into frame more and more. The aluminum GoPro housing is made for a 52mm filter ring, and it includes this UV filter. However, I've found it most beneficial to use ND filters while I'm out shooting in the field, especially in bright light. Now, I'm using the extremely cheap filters from Amazon for this use, just because this is my rig that I really just throw around and really don't pay a lot of care to. It's rugged, and that's all I care about. If I scratch this filter, I'm not going to be mad. I can buy 3 more for 10 bucks. So as you saw, you can take very similar approaches to either style of case that you like to get the desired look that you're after. Now again, the smaller compact version is the one that I personally choose. I feel like it just packages really well. You can bring it with you and people almost don't look twice at what you're carrying. I feel like the second version with the larger mic on top is going to draw a little bit more attention, especially if you're running a dead cat on it to try and knock down that wind noise when you're out in the elements. I shot with my compact version while I was down in the desert in SoCal for 3 days, and there was just no complications at all. That mini directional microphone with the dead cat on it knocked down almost all of the wind noise as well. It just makes it easy, and for me, it's the best of all worlds. The only thing that a setup like this doesn't have is a selfie screen. Now, you can use the app on your phone if you're worried about really framing your shot the first time, but the angle on the GoPro, even in linear mode, is still so wide that you have a pretty good idea where it's showing. If it's in front of you and you're pointing it at yourself, you're gonna get yourself in the picture. I don't think that there's a ton to worry about. And also, without the selfie screen, it'll keep you from ever looking at it. You can focus on the camera, keep your eyes pointed where they're supposed to be and make better videos, I feel. As far as GoPro vlogging cameras go, I still have yet to see any option cleaner than either of the two that I've put here in front of you. Again, I'll put the links to everything I used in the description below to help you find that. If there's anything else that you need, feel free to drop a comment below. Happy to help with these as much as I can. Or if you're looking for more of a ready-to-run package like I show here, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook. Links to both of those pages are available in the description below as well. So hopefully some of this information may have been helpful for you. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.